Hey everyone, this is the audio version of the longer version. Anyway, just to be able to give you the full version, shortish version, I need to give you some past information because, just as every story, you need the beginning. So I'm going to try and keep it as short as possible. You see, it all started back in 2011 with an idea that I had after I'd been told a few times that I should write a book. I thought that maybe a blog would be a better idea, as sitting down to write a book can be a very timely exercise, and maybe it would be quicker and easier to rather just do a blog post every now and then instead. Also, not to mention that everybody hasn't always got the time to sit down and read a whole book, but maybe an interesting post now and again, that would be a little more doable. Also, back in 2011, blogging was not as well known as it is today, so the idea, I must admit, intrigued me. However, as you know, life happens and we can so easily get wrapped up in our day-to-day activities with everything demanding our attention, like working, taking care of those we love, and everything in between. So the start of what could be our dreams, well, that just unfortunately falls to the background and life takes center stage. I then got my daughter back permanently with me, and looking after my mom took priority, and corporate, well, that's a whole different ball game altogether. Plus, throw in some unforeseen drama like having an emergency operation, being retrenched. Needless to say, my idea of blogging simply just got lost in a deep ocean of survival. After a very bumpy 2012 to 2017, I went back to Reach for Life's No Regret, which is a whole other story for another day. But the important little nugget that I'd like to share with you is that after going back to Reach for Life No Regrets, the stipend I was receiving didn't cover the rent, and unfortunately we were evicted and we had to move. Sure, how my faith was tested because God had told me we were going to move, but we had no rent, no deposit, and I just didn't know how this was going to happen. But yet he took care of it, which is another story for another day. Anyway, getting back to the story, during the second month in our new place, which is a beautiful little cottage, a gentleman had donated some groceries for us, as my stipend and my mom's pension only just cover the rent. He instructed, however, that an Inside Story chocolate had to be bought and given to me. And he gave the following message. He said, "The reason I've helped you is because not very many people are prepared to tell their inside story to help others. So thank you." Well, imagine my surprise. Fast forward to 2018, yet again the topic of you should write a book came up. And with this, an igniting of a long time ago little wick of an idea, and slowly edging its way forward from the almost decade ago place in my mind, came the blogging idea once again. But I was busy studying, life coaching, teaching, life skills, volunteering, seeing my daughter off to varsity, so once again I just pushed it back. 2019 started with me thinking about my blog. Like, what would it look like? What would I say? How would I go about turning this idea into a reality? Just the whole conception of it, like how would it be? But unfortunately, it was short-lived because I had the opportunity to do my level 4 in early childhood development, which I gratefully accepted and gave my best. Everything else, though, took second place, to put it mildly. Oh yeah, and then my dad reaching out to me after 23 years to make peace, and then him dying a few months later of cancer, plus all the other day-to-day parts of living life. Let's just say that the blog, well, I had simply no inclination of trying to do that too. Then came 2020. The beginning was seemingly business as usual until the media started talking about this deadly virus, and the next thing, events escalated faster and faster till the whole world was on lockdown. What an eerie, strange, and scary time for mankind. So I turned my focus, after going through a bit of a depression of sorts, to my bachelor's in theology. So one morning, when I was busy looking up a scriptural reference, what a surprise when I read 2 Corinthians 8 verses 10 to 11, and in this I give advice. It is to your advantage not only to be doing what you began and were desiring to do a year ago, but now you also must complete the doing of it. Now, I don't know about you, but man, oh man, it was as if God was talking straight to me. In plain English, if you don't mind. Like, what I was thinking of doing, the blog, in 2019, well, it's time to start it. So that kind of blew my mind. But the idea of simply writing it down and putting it out there in cyberspace, to me, actually having to learn how to create and design a site from scratch, that was a totally different story. To start off with, I had to choose a domain name. I mean, I didn't even know what a domain was. That was the level of my understanding. But anyway, back to the domain name. In came a memory, crashing down every rope that had been holding it way back. Inside Story. Yes, that's a perfect name. The reason I didn't call it my inside story is because after thinking about it, I didn't just want the space to be about my story, but other people's stories too. All people. On a side note though, when I do one day write my book, which I think I need to do, I think my title, My Inside Story, would make a good title, don't you? Anyway, so domain name done, hosting sorted, WordPress loaded, my journey began. My idea finally became reality, and after many hours of how-to videos, thank you very much YouTube, and hair-pulling trial and error, not to mention testing, a lot of testing. Also my special daughter being editor, checker, encourager, advisor, and listener. My dear mom, the shoulder to cry on, the supporter, and of course my number one fan. And also not to mention all my many friends, coaxing me on, checking how I'm doing. Thank you to all of you. Here we are, InsideStory.coza. And my idea from 2011 becomes a dream that is finally materializing.